How to beat fear? Defining fear. What causes some to walk over fear like it's nothing, and others to curl into a ball with the slightest felt fear? Why is it that fear has so much power over living things in general? Well, firstly, we didn't ask to be born, we just are. By existing, we fall into the laws of this universe, meaning that our physical bodies are destined to die and rot eventually. If you live and value your life, then you likely fear death. For fear implies a loss of something we value, such as health or wealth, and usually a gain of something we dislike or hate, such as pain, suffering, enslavement, or loneliness. We don't want whatever fear implies will happen, so we listen to it, believing that by listening to it, that which it implies will not happen. Yet, if believing what fear implies was true, why do I claim it's a barrier everyone should break? Well, let's understand fear. What is fear? Fear is a feeling or emotion caused by perceived risk. But the key in understanding fear is that it is perceived and not actualized, just an estimate. Also, we don't ever fear things that have already happened in the present, but rather what they imply. For example, if someone is driving, they might fear of crashing because it could ruin their special day and everything else that can be caused due to the crash. If someone that has already crashed and their special day was ruined, they no longer fear that their day might be ruined because it simply was ruined. They might fear the loss of future events due to that crash, but not what already happened and what is already lost. Therefore, we fear the most when we have the most value or most perceived value to lose. If a person didn't care about their day because it wasn't special, then they wouldn't have feared crashing as much on that day than on their special day. Yet the problem is that fear is perception, and an inaccurate one by inherent nature. How is fear an inaccurate perception of risk? Well, let me put it this way. Let's say we were playing Russian roulette, but the revolver can be modified to have as many chambers as we want, okay? Let's say we point a gun towards your hand, and if you shoot a bullet to your hand, then you lose. Yet the catch is that if you don't, then you win $100,000. Let's say that there are 100,000 chambers, and there's only one bullet in those chambers. Would you pull the trigger? Most would, but interestingly, some wouldn't. But the problem is that all of us take that exact gamble every single day without realizing it. Every time you get in a car, you are spinning that revolver. The difference is there's no money prize waiting at the end. Only the perceived necessity of getting to work, running errands, hobbies, parties, gatherings, etc. So when people say they're too afraid to take calculated risk that could actually change their life, like pulling the trigger for $100,000, their fear isn't really aligned with reality because they likely drove to where you've met them. They already accept far worse odds every day for far less reward because they've convinced themselves that the commute is worth it. Yet for those that actually never choose to drive and rather get around through other ways, they perceive the risk and respect it. They do not fear it, rather they simply see it as too risky for them. And if they don't regret their decision, then they truly respect that risk and do not fear it. That is the difference between fearing risk and respecting risk. Everyone has a personal risk to reward threshold that they are willing to take on. The problem is that fear increases that perceived risk factor even though it's not true. Fear blinds others from seeing it clearly, seeing the risk clearly. So understand that your risk to reward threshold may be distorted by fear without you even knowing it. And so your actions and ultimately your rewards get affected because of a distorted perception of risk. This was part 4 of the Pursuit of Truth series and part 1 on how to be fear.